Spencer, you had the school record 54-yard field goal against NC State, but we're not going to talk about that yet because I want to talk about your life. And most of the times we talk about football first and then the life, but you're just really fascinating. So, you've been on all these adventures. What are a couple adventures that, are the best highlights in your life so far?
I think it started with being homeschooled, kind of opened up my horizons a little bit, allowed me to do some cool things that kids that were in school kind of didn't have the opportunity to do. When I was 12, my family and I took a 3-week educational cruise through Central America, visited every single country except for El Salvador, and got to really kind of meet the locals and explore different cultures and learn a lot. And that kind of started my fascination with travel and kind of being entrepreneurial and getting out and doing some cool things. And so that was an inspiration to eventually have a nonprofit that worked on education in some of these countries. And then when I lived in Indiana till I was 12, then I lived in Austin, Texas for a year, and then I've been in Florida for the past 10 years before coming here. And I started a private training company with my sister in Florida, which was fun because it introduced us to a bunch of different people. We got to be mentors for the youth and train in something that we were really passionate about. So we grew that together, and that kind of set me up well to have some real estate investments. And so I was working business at the same time that I was playing soccer. My soccer journey took me overseas to Brazil and Canada for 3 months in each place, and that was awesome. And then I think God kind of set up the football opportunity in my life. So then I got pulled back to USF, where I walked on the team, spent 2 years as a walk-on before getting put on scholarship. And so it's just kind of been having courage to follow whatever God's path is for me. And it's kind of shifted and changed a lot as I've grown and gotten older, but I couldn't be more happy and feel more blessed with where I'm at right now.
How have you been able to keep saying yes to where you think God
I think it's a
you?
habit. I think it's, you can form good habits and bad habits, and everyone likes to talk about bad habits, but you can just as easily form good habits. And pretty early on, I recognized that God was putting these opportunities in my life, and then all I had to do was take advantage of them. And it seemed like every one that I took, something cool happened. And so then it was I want to do this. I want to go on this next adventure. I feel like this is going to be an awesome opportunity. And so I got in the habit of saying yes to all these new adventures. And yeah, it's just been an awesome road, and it's led me here. And I just feel so blessed to be a part of Notre Dame and be at the spot that I am now.
I want to talk about Brazil. So I spent a little bit of time in Brazil. I took some Portuguese, but when I think about soccer in Brazil, I'm thinking, Neymar, one of the greatest ever, Pele, who recently passed, one of the greatest ever, Ronaldinho, these amazing soccer players. What was it like playing pro soccer in that environment?
Oh, it was all encompassing. And we think about what a big deal college athletics is in the United States, but it's still a piece of the general sports puzzle. You have all of these different sports that people watch, and you have college and you have pro, and some people like football and some people like soccer and some people like tennis. There's all these different passions, all these different avenues you can take. In a country like Brazil, it is predominantly soccer. That is what is it's just cultural, just ingrained in everyone growing up. And so to go over there and see the passion that everyone had for that sport and how it was more than just a sport. It was a part of the culture, and it was a part of what people did, and it was a way to connect people to one another. It was really cool to be a part of that. I remember the neighborhood I stayed in had one soccer field in the back, and it was this torn up grass field with a metal frame as the goal. And there would be 50 kids out there every single night, just playing with each other, hanging out, kicking the ball around. It was just something you did. I mean, I don't know that anyone didn't play soccer. It was just.
And what city were you in?
I was in Sao Carlos, which is almost a suburb of Sao Paulo, which is just the major city. And Sao Carlos was really safe. It was a great city to be in. I played for Grêmio Sao Carlos and Ferroviarias when I was there, and had an awesome time. Really got to be immersed in the culture, learned a little bit of Portuguese, made some great friends. It was awesome.
And when you think about coming back to the U.S. and playing football, you said you walked on at USF before coming to Notre Dame. How did that appreciation for what soccer meant to Brazilians change your viewpoint on what football means to Americans, and then participating in this culture as well?
I think it inspires me to keep the team and the fans in focus when I go out and I accomplish things. So for me, playing at Notre Dame, the individual accomplishments are great, and I'm sure, like you said, we can talk about some of that stuff. But it's the coolest part of it is bringing people joy, and it's people turn on the TV and they watch you play and they're like, that's cool. And it brings them joy and it connects them with their friends. Like my dad, he's had his buddies text him and say like, is this your son? Like Spencer Shrader, number 32 there. And he'll be like connecting with old buddies that he hasn't talked to in years that are all of a sudden like hitting him up on the phone, and then he reconnects with them. So the coolest part is like playing a sport that so many eyes are on, and it's just forming awesome memories and bringing them joy and happiness and connecting with your teammates. And that's part of the reason I do it. And that's part of the reason why it's so fun for me isn't necessarily just the individual accomplishments, but what it brings other people.
So let's talk about NBC State. When I was watching on telly, it looked just wicked out there. I'm telling you. And you managed to have, I think your PR was 52 yards prior to this, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was University of Florida, maybe last year, 52 yards.
So I mean, to do a PR in those conditions, I mean, what going through warmups, did you feel like, what was your feeling when you're just walking around and kind of being in that environment?
Mm-hmm. Well, every game is different, and so every game presents its challenges. And so for me, I just try to focus on my operation and try to be as consistent as possible, regardless of the field or the stadium or the location or the weather. And so the less I can think about it and have that on my mind, and the better I can perform. And so, yeah, it's harder to kick in wind and it's harder to kick in rain. But for me, it's like I just got to try to ignore it and put it out of my mind and just focus on the task at hand. And the better you're able to ignore it, then the more successful you can be.
It's funny because I understand what you're saying. Like in my mind, I'm like, yes, makes sense. But then I've also had conversations with kickers where they're like, they know different winds. They understand the wind above the stadium versus inside the stadium and how it changes. I mean, so it's like an interesting concept. How can you just kind of turn your brain off when you are paying attention to so many different factors?
I think a lot of it is I'm not a traditional kicker. I did not go through the camp system. I never had an official coach. I only played football 1 year of high school. It was my senior year, and I just did it for fun. And so I wasn't in an environment where I was like continually surrounded where this is what a kicker does, and this is how he acts, and this is how. And so for me, it's like I know what my job is, and I want to go out and I want to do my job to the best of the ability. But it's kind of just been like me and then my family and other influences in my life that have helped me get there. But I try not to be super analytical about all that stuff because I think it can get in your head and it can do more harm than good at the end of the day. And so my motto is like, Coach Freeman, he's like, all right, we're going field goal here. It's not my job to tell him where I'm kicking or when I'm kicking or what distance. It's like, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to do my thing.
So when you think about your non-traditional approach and the benefit, because at the end the day, I'm talking to you're the school record holder for Notre Dame, which is amazing. So when you think about your non-traditional approach, in what way has that freed you? Just being able to approach this game in a new way and break records.
I think it goes back to what I said earlier. This is the most that I've ever cared about football, and it's because of Notre Dame and in the stage that Notre Dame has. And I see my teammates working so hard every day. Like Sam Hartman's doing an interview next to me. I see him in the weight room after hours working every day. I see Joe Alt working and leading. I see these guys, and it's like, it's my duty to work hard and do my job for them. Like, I don't think about, okay, like I'm going to go out and I'm going to kick this yardage and then I'm going to get like glory or fame because of it. It's like, I'm indebted because of how hard they work and how hard the coaching staff works to do my job for them. And so that's what drives me and keeps me motivated. And I think that's the non-traditional view of it. I think, not to throw the kickers under the bus, but I think sometimes like in the kicking profession, it's very individualized because it's such a unique position. And it's like, oh, I need to like do my thing. And this is my coach and I'm going to make these field goals. I'm going to go to NFL. I don't care. I'm not thinking about the NFL. Every day I show up to work and I do my thing because that's what my brothers next to me deserve. And so that's my approach. And that's how it helps me keep things in perspective.
When you think about Notre Dame, because you've been here for a while now, what makes it so special?
It's just the history behind it. It has a tradition of being a magical place, and that doesn't change because the people that come here that are attracted to this university, that are able to come to this university, are the highest achievers that you're going to meet. And so it has a consistent history of producing great people and great football players. And the culture is so strong, and that's such an emphasis that it's able to maintain that year after year. And that's why I feel like it's so special and it's such a blessing to be a part of that.
Do you have like a favorite tradition yet? Yeah, like what's your favorite Notre Dame thing?
I don't know. That's hard to say. I think that there's a lot of things that we do that I take pride in. I like our fight song that we sing, and I like how we go to the fans after the game and show appreciation for being out there. Yeah, things like that are ingrained in Notre Dame culture. They're meaningful, and it's fun to be a part of that.
So I know you obviously great soccer player, but I want to go back and in the past just briefly entertainment. I live in New York. The U.S. Open, big deal. Coco Gauff won their first major. Novak Djokovic also broke a record, the tie with Serena Williams, the tie with overall with Margaret Court. So I know you're a tennis player, a very good one. What is your current take on the state of affairs in tennis? I'm just curious. You seem to know about most things. So I thought I'd throw it out there.
Yeah, that's a great question. I try to be a cultured individual and kind of have an understanding of what else is going on, not just what I'm doing all the time. I certainly stay up to date with tennis. I think it's pretty incredible what Djokovic has been able to do at the age that he is now, and the consistency and excellence that he shows. But it's also really cool to see the new generations that are coming up and competing with that. It was sad when Federer retired. I think for me, like, he was kind of like the all-time GOAT just because of what he did for the sport. And I think he was such a classy individual in every facet of life that was something that I really respected. And I think it's cool that you can learn from other people in different professions. And even though I'm doing a sport that's entirely different than what he's doing, you can learn from those people and you can attribute certain tools and skills that you see them doing to your own life as well. And so I think that's why it's important to be a cultured person and kind of understand what's going on around you. It helps you keep things in perspective.
Thanks for being a good sport on that one. I appreciate it. So look, This is my last question for you. You think about everything, all your experiences through Central America, starting the nonprofit, running that business with your sister, your real estate investments, traveling the world, now playing football for Notre Dame. What does life look like for you after Notre Dame and after whatever sports you're playing? What do you want to do when you're done playing sports?
I think the coolest thing about the position that I'm in right now is that I know God has something picked out for me, and all I have to do is continuing being the best person I can be every day. So that's continuing to grow the real estate investments. That's continuing to grow the athletic training company with my sister and adding in the health aspect that we dream of doing. That's hopefully playing at the next level. But if that's not an option, that's okay, because I have other things on my plate. That's connecting with Notre Dame and staying connected with Notre Dame even after I leave here, coming back to events, coming back to sporting events, staying connected with all the incredible people that are in this network, and hopefully doing some really cool things on the business side with them. It's just continuing to maximize my opportunities every day. And it's low stress because I know that God's going to have something picked out for me.
Keep saying yes. It's a habit.
Exactly.
That's right. Great deal. It's a pleasure, man. Best of luck to you this weekend in Central Michigan, and go Irish, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Go Irish.